On February 20th, 2008, a cleaning employee finds a naked corpse of a woman in a tourist apartment in Barcelona. The event has occurred under strange circumstances. Who is this woman? Is it a sexual game or something darker that has caused her death? Music. I remember perfectly how it was one night we get a worried teletype that explained that the body of a young woman had been found dead in an apartment in the Gracia neighborhood on Camperdown Street. A cleaning staff from some apartments that were rented on the street in the city of Barcelona, upon accessing this property, this floor found the lifeless body of a girl. So we have been notified. From here, we move, the investigators and the judicial committee. The first thing the investigators look for when conducting the ocular inspection is to identify the victim. In this case, it was not possible. No documentation provided any data in this regard. The Mossos d'Esquadra, when they stand in front of the scene, evidently without knowing if it's a crime, a suicide, or a natural death, the first question is who is in front of them because she has no documentation at all. But beware, we are talking about one of the many unknowns that begin to emerge, and that we resolve with a small brief. The body of an unidentified young woman appears. The next thing is to find out if it is a violent death or a natural death. When we access the floor, this is a blog that advanced days, and what arises in the first instance is the body of a woman who is lying on the sofa. In this way, the body is already passing. The body is naked, has a plastic bag on the head taped with insulating or plastic tape around the neck. Beyond the obvious, which is in the bag with which that person has been desired, there are no other signs that highlight that there has been a struggle or any other type of veils. When the bag is removed from the head, it presents to the witnesses that are some signs characteristic of asphyxia by suffocation, that is called by cutting the frontal air supply. However, the investigators miss something essential in the scenario in the apartment. The victim's clothing does not appear. The normal questions we ask ourselves are, where is this clothing? To whom has it been taken? We want to be attentive. We also do not find any handbag or wallet that she could carry for the pertinent personal effects that we normally carry, such as a wallet with the documentation, some keys, mobile, something. Yes, it catches the attention of the investigators next to the body of the deceased. A black wig of medium length appears, some high boots. The apartment managers communicate to the investigators that this apartment has been rented by a woman, and the name of that woman is Anna Pi's Capital. And we try to know. The rental of the floor in whose name it was in the name of Olive for the captain. It was rented and paid by credit. There was a person who went to pick up the key spikes before the kilo of 1821. I think I remember. They already have a name, but they do not have a photograph, which prevents them from finding out if the deceased is healthy. In a way parallel to the police investigations, a family from L'Hospital de Llobregat reports the disappearance of a young woman. This woman, who presumably has disappeared, is Anna Pi's Captain. The next day, a friend of mine tells me that she has acquaintances who have filed a complaint with the police, the Mossos d'Esquadra, because their daughter has not appeared. We have knowledge of Anna's disappearance through her partner, through Carlos and father. As soon as he becomes aware of it, he goes to Mossos d'Esquadra to file a complaint. The family of the missing person categorically assures that Anna had no reason to disappear, therefore claims that this disappearance has not been voluntary. I was talking on the phone with my sister when she was heading from work to Barcelona by train, and she told me that she had arranged to have dinner with a friend. The day of the disappearance, Anna, like any other day, goes to work. There is only something that changes with respect to other days, and this is attested in fact by the sentimental partner at that time of Anna, who was called Carlos. He says that night she will arrive a little late because she has arranged to have dinner with a former work colleague. She does not sleep at home. Carlos thinks she will know that she will have drunk so as not to underscore the car. At first he did not give it much importance, but the next day when she no longer answers, he got worried. He spoke with friends, with girlfriends. He already called the boss and friend with whom she had arranged to have dinner, when she knew nothing, and since it was something unusual in Anna's usual behavior, file a complaint. The Mossos, in their investigation, what they do is check the complaints the immediately previous days of missing persons. They contact the complainants and relatives to compare the photos of the people whose disappearance they have reported and the photo of the happiness. They call my father on the phone so that he would go to identify so that a person had appeared in that. and that he would go to identify, and the relatives recognize this person as a capital. And well, I make a second column counting that the corpse of the young woman has been identified that belongs to a well that her parents are from Ospitalet, and that she had been identified as Onapaz and so on, and that there was an investigation open to clarify the causes. From that instant, the investigation focuses on trying to find out what has been the cause of the death of Anna Wall. We do not find out about the death. No, of course not. You cannot explain it. You do not know what could have happened. The first hypotheses that we consider in the scene can be denoted from what is evident. A naked corpse in the position we found it would end with a bag that taped the head. The first thing that can come to mind is perhaps some type of sexual game that has gone beyond. Sexual faith is a practice through which, by suffocating the respiratory tracts or plugging them, pleasure increases because the heart rate increases, blood flow increases, and therefore the sexual organs are irrigated with greater flow of blood. It led us to a laboratory analytical result in which it determined that in the body of Anna Paz, remains of male semen from two different men had been found deposited in the vaginal cavity and another in the oral cavity. About the sexual game kana, you lead a double life or something like that. It did not fit us. I knew my sister, and not at all. Well, also likewise find out if she could maintain or had some type of relationship outside the couple with another person, something that we did not find at all. Discarded the risky sexual practice as a cause of death, the Mossos de Esquadra consider other hypotheses. And what they tell me is that it could have been a suicide, and that they are investigating, and that they will continue to communicate to us. Suicide, no. It did not cross our minds. We find, well, a young active woman with a stable job, with a stable sentimental partner, with future plans, without any type of activity that could denote anything else strange to the era. Well, a very, very cheerful, very creative girl, a normal girl, who her life, her partner, her work, she was dedicated to fashion design, but we try to reconstruct as many times the last 24-48 hours, or as far as necessary. Previous in the life of the victim, what she did, who she was, what her associated work family, and sentimental environment was. The different hypotheses are not sustained. The clues are running out, and the investigators still have no certainty about the motive after the death of Anna. For this case, we can say that at this instant, it is a constant doubt, because the investigators do not have enough elements to defend that it is a suicide, but in the same way, they also do not have arguments to reach the conclusion that they are facing a homicide. Anna's sentimental partner maintains that the night Anna disappeared, she had arranged to have dinner with an ancient from the minor named Angeles Molina, who was known as there. Anna tells Carlos that she is going to have dinner with that night, until one of the few people to whom she is called to declare that Angie, in the declaration of María Ángeles, she tells us a relationship she had with Anna, that it was work, and had been her boss in a textile company where they worked, and specifically already focusing on the unity of the facts. She says that she received a call Diana that told her that she follows her is the game of something in relation to a meal, and she well says that she follows the game starts to insinuate that her friend has like a double life, and from here, she says she knows nothing more. The versions of the two women do not coincide. Listening to Anna's version, one could come to think that she had arranged some type of date behind her partner's back with the connivance of her friend. When my parents Carlos talked to Angie and she was already giving evasives, and that it was an invention of my sister to have arranged and so on, the Mossos find themselves in a key clue to clarify what happened. A suspicious bank movement in Han's account appears the same day of her death at the moment when she is at her work. Someone using her documentation, her credit cards, withdraws money from her checking account. We find at around 9 and something in the morning, in a bank branch in Mataro, of a withdrawal of about 600 euros at the window by a person who matches the name of Anna for the captain. We request the recordings of the security cameras of the entity to a little see at what time she will have to now, then know effectively we see a person enter a person with black hair, that they identify us as the person who made a withdrawal at the window of that amount of money. And when they get the images of bones, already see that it is the wig or the boots, but the face does not seem, no, it does not seem the woman who has died, and the one they are investigating the crime is. With those photo print, we try to follow the trail, and we have the identification with the people, but we find ourselves with a detail that is already very significant to us, and it is that the sentimental partner of this person is not healthy. It is not Lana, this person, is her expert is the person with whom she had to have dinner that night. This person is María Ángeles Molina, that photo Carlos her partner, and Carlos. 3 that she had coincided with a year on some occasion, and Carlos upon. Seeing it well realizes as the person who is there is not healthy. It is Angie. He sees clearly that it is Angie with a wig, that black hair. And we start to think that it could coincide with the wig that we found at the crime scene place puts us on the track as a suspect objective. Although they can by indications Yellow Ángeles Molina, with whom she usually takes declaration principle, as witnesses neither did we have any charge. Evidence we will be able until the moment are her files mozos. The Esquadra calls us and communicates to us how the whole investigation is going, and they tell us that there she is the main suspect in the murder of Anna. From that moment, the mozos focus on María Ángeles Molina there as the only suspect but who they are, and in reality, we investigate this person the same as we have done with the victim. We also reconstruct a little her life, relationships, environment, work, social, family, friends, enemies. She is the daughter of a taxi driver and a housewife, a marriage of a small town in Zaragoza. The family of Anurac is super. Humble, already a normal family. They had already made money because everything was for her the whims that she always had achieved when she achieved something that she got angry or left home, and well, a capricious girl, modest family, very dear in her town to which she visited less, unless I met Angie that through common people in a nightclub in Barcelona. She was between 16 and 17, and I at 18 years old fulfilled. She was a girl with a lot of haughtiness and a lot of desire to show off and to leave people always a little below her. She spent a season living with me and with other girls at that time. She was dedicated to high-level prostitution. The young woman had a good body, and well that she knew how to invoke, and well really achieved what she wanted from men music. In the mid-'80s, Angie moves to Gran Canaria, where she manages to have the life she dreams of, music. There she meets in Canarias the businessman Juan Antonio Alvarez, apparently falls in love with and moves to the island, and breaks all ties with Barcelona. Some vacations with a group of friends moves to Gran Canaria, has an indisposition, meets a businessman of a known from the area of the Playa de los Ingleses of Gran Canaria. Then, with that indisposition, she enters her in a hospital, in a little that is older than her, decides a little to tutor her, because he finds her like a little helpless, takes care of her. What the man was attractive, was pleasant, and well there in beginning the spark really arose there. She trusted him, true interest, and excited her that there was grace of a man who had a lot of money if you go from Barcelona, because if she made invitation to Villanueva, and well, and in fact she went far. We know each other since we were 4 years old. We were neighbors, even we went to primary together until 17, 18 years old, that he came to Spain. The umpire, very good, a lot of heart, had a relationship that at 2 years ends in wedding, and wedding as a daughter. And they have led, she is already pregnant. She is happy because she wanted, besides, that there be a girl that came to be to have a girl. She learns to live with a lot of money in Gran Canaria. Her husband becomes a great businessman of the night who has several restaurants and venues. And there she learns to live in luxury. For me, there are many shoes like me, music. And there she goes from tuna the venues that not even were Juan, or that already we were being a Juan, put what she wanted. They came to with the nickname of Dukes, in that sense of everything of dressing, of showing off, and all the things are level of life and appearance, because they're the one who had the level of life air Juan. Everything was equal to him. He was breaking his back, working every day at late hours of the night. And then, when he went to the account, there was already be it more expense than what they could do, and everything was her problem. He is a regular at the casino, at the brand stores. On one hand, the businessman sees how María Ángeles Molina does not stop spending lavishly, and however on Angie's part she does not perceive any economic amount. We can say that there's a moment in which this relationship starts to deteriorate, because literally Angie is melting her husband's fortune. But Angie does not have enough of the money that her husband provides her. During her time in Gran Canaria, she made constant trips to Barcelona, and it is said, I have never confirmed it, that since she worked as a prostitute, the contact of youth, when she was dedicated to prostitution, she maintained the houses of madams. Then she came and was here 10 days or something. She finished what she needed. She maintained a second relationship with men with high purchasing level, and even a famous person from here had many problems for being she was married and blackmailed him, and they make him a lot of money. She spent more time in Barcelona, game on the island. There she continues to lead a double life between Canarias and Barcelona. She travels more and more to Condal City, equally starts to suspect first, understands the trips. She no longer gives explanations, Sometimes he says she is in a place with some person, and she is not. He checks it and starts really to doubt. I can assure you that the relationship was broken already. She has me rotten. I am going to separate. In Barcelona, detective gets all the evidence. He needed to know what she came to Barcelona, and that the unfaithful. And well, then he asks the divorce one. Angel says that he keeps the girl, that he leaves her ruined, and that he is going to discredit her in front of the world. Although in Spain, infidelity is not the data cause of divorce, it is no less true that having a detective's report that proves the dissolute life of your partner can favor you in establishing, for example, the distribution of assets or the liquidation of community property, if one had separated at that moment or he asked for divorce, and if she is left with nothing. And it is precisely in the scenario of absolute tension, when the death of Juan Antonio occurs, theoretically what the forensic doctors determine is that he has taken his own life using something as classic within suicide as poison. The autopsy determines that Antonio has died from the ingestion of a toxic that is present in a cleaning product of this chemical substance, has a very strong and unpleasant taste. If you take it, you detect instantly that you are taking something strange that supported the version or the thesis in suicide. Then when they call me later and tell me the Shenzhou of suicide impossible to someone who is depressed, who has the intention of suicide, is not as he was. He overflowed health. It does not fit in my head that he can think of that. I already tell you, you have a 4-year-old girl who does not want to see her children grow. She calls me telling me to go live in Barcelona with Carolina. And I say, and that says, because one has died. And I say, how that one has died. Says, yes, to the drawings that I gave him, we were not very bad. And one day you take that. Young man died, who was good. The total divorce, very drink. Barcelona, she inherited an important amount of money. It has been calculated that more or less she could move to Barcelona with about 40 million pesetas at the time, approximately, in addition to some policies that she tried to collect and that she was negotiating for years there. She tries to collect Juan Antonio's life insurance, but she finds a problem that was not foreseen, and it is that being a suicide, it was not contemplated in the policy. María Ángeles, Molina leaves Gran Canaria after the sudden death of her husband, who apparently has committed suicide. Angie, together with her daughter, set course for Barcelona to start a new life. There I start working as head of personnel, and the truth is that I tear her at the beginning of her relationship. She does not select at all with any of the workers, only tells very well Carlos Carvajal, who is Anna's partner, to whom at the beginning Anna told him that this new head of personnel was distant, haughty, conceited, who kept very well the distances. Not all knows María Ángeles Molina, because they coincide in a company of fashion designer, and María Ángeles Molina is in human resources. Still, sometimes she commented to me that she had a work colleague who had a luxury car that she liked a lot, some person who liked a lot to show off, and who had very expensive whims. Approximately the salary was about 3,000 euros a month, but she came to work in a Porsche or in Hummer, one of the high-end vehicles. She had besides always immaculate of brands and not precisely fakes, and they marked a lot the difference of the abbreviate, since it was a money to luxury, believing herself something that she was not, and the is to arrive and being someone like from the upper class. She does not go to just any neighborhood. She rents an important house, elaborates, Norman enrolls her daughter in a paying school, and maintains her high level of life. The relationship between Anna and Angie, a normal relationship of work colleagues, in which perhaps they have more bond once they no longer work together than when they were working together when they do the workshops. Angie, they were no longer work colleagues. Now she works in Mataro, and she had already been fired for a conflict with her boss's wife, and has no known way of life. It is at that moment when she starts to need money, and there she starts first to devise that plan of impersonating Anna to get those first loans that for a time, they are saving her a little, and it is when the loans that she has been getting in Anna's name become small for her. She is leaving in her path a trail of debts. She needs more money. Those loans of 15,000 have become small for her, and she decides to finish with that collect the insurance policy that she has contracted in her name, for that she had to kill her on February 19th. 2008, Angie decided in the life of Anna Paz. That day Anna had arranged with Angie, because apparently the second wanted to show her the new floor that she had bought in Gracia, but to say that this floor was neither bought nor anything of the style. That is, it was a tourist floor that had been rented, and the most surprising, striking, and possibly lurid is that besides it had been rented in the name of the victim herself of Anna Paz's plans, what for her has to be the perfect crime. I made a staging after renting an apartment, after obtaining semen from 2 individuals dedicated to prostitution in a place in Barcelona. What she tells a manager is that she no longer wants to practice sex, but that the only thing she wants is to have remains of semen. Because she has made a bet with a friend, she already told him from the first moment, "Do not touch me, only I want show them 2 pharmacy sample containers." She told him, "I need this already, which in each one a jar." And that she delivered to me, she had the semen, she had the apartment of all. What she does is call Anna, who at that moment is already a friend and is an accomplice, or the one who is a certain friendship, well, that she has an apartment, that she has rented spectacular, that she wants to show her from her mobile phone at about 7:30 or 8 in the evening. She called the victim to confirm that they were meeting well at 9 at 8:30 in the apartment on Con Street, in such a way that she arrives at the apartment. And what the investigators understand that happened there is that she gave her some substance at dinner that made her lose consciousness, a hypothesis of a possible administration of drug or narcotic that could annul the victims will undress her completely later on the black sofa that was in the press in the main room and deposited semen from one of the gigolos in Anna's mouth and semen from the second gigolo in the vagina, takes a plastic bag, places it on the victim's head, and tightens it strongly around the neck with a tape, leaves her lie on the sofa. Finally, Anna dies from asphyxia with a plastic bag tied around the neck with several turns of insulating tape logically that is not seen, that she does not try to remove clean completely the scene, and left only under the sofa some cane boots, those that she used when she impersonated Anna Paz, and the black wig with which she wore clean everything, made disappear all of Anna's belongings that were never found, the clothes, the handbag, or the wallet, everything she made disappear, and left their music. In March 2008, weeks after the death of Anna Paz, María Ángeles Molina is in the sights of the homicide investigators of the Mossos d'Esquadra, the owners of the apartment where the deceased appear, give another more disturbing fact, if possible. When they show them a photograph of María Ángeles Molina, they identify her as Anna Paz and recognize that person as the person who rented the apartment to them. But yes, using the name of Anna Wall has a rental of this apartment. Some data are given as truthful, those of Zalapa, but address a street in Barcelona and a phone are given that are steps from here. We do the procedures in this street in Barcelona. We see that they're Annan and had contact, nor had lived, nor anything, but yes, on the contrary, the managers of property of that floor tell us that correspondence is arriving to that specific address, to that specific floor. I look for a block of the eye example of Barcelona. They wrote a doorman, a man who for 2 years was receiving letters in the name of a certain Anna Paz that he was keeping. The Mossos d'Esquadra found them. When the Mossos arrived, they discover a large amount of credits acquired impersonating Anna Paz. Little by little, she was impersonating her identity, first in banking entities requesting credits of certain volumes that were not very important credits. They were credits, let's say, of those that the branch director himself can give. We find in this correspondence that there is an insurance policy contracted in the name of Ana Carla for the captain as the beneficiary, a lady named Susanna, one morning. There are also some phone bills. Check these phone numbers, lead us to other insurance companies. These insurance companies start to tell us that there's a person who in the name of Anna Paz captain had contracted various loans and various life insurances. She knew nothing to her. No documentation arrived to her. No letters arrived because everything arrived at address of Balmes Street. Hopefully, a document had arrived to her saying that she had a credit in the bank or such, because this perhaps would have awakened her alarms. María Ángeles Molina is using the identity of Anna Paz to contract a series of personal loans of life insurances with another beneficiary person that until now we do not know and that we suppose to collect, and that of course the evident is that she may have some relation with the death of Anna. Perhaps here the key question, because we are seeing that there is a person who is precisely impersonating the victims. Personality, how can she do this? How is it possible? The key is in that to say that Angie was Anna Paz's boss, was the head of the human resources department. Therefore, she had access to her account number, to her ID, to her address, to her phone, in short, to all the information she needed to be able to carry out these acts. She has no problem in getting Anna Paz's documentation. As his head of personnel, Anna, in fact, believes that she has lost it. What she does is renew the ID again and the passport well. Surely she stole from her, and what she does is train to forge her signature, and simply with the real documentation of Mon. You do not have to change the photo or anything. Well, it should not be like that, but doing it, she did it. They check the ID and little more, and they grant it, and they grant her the credits. What she does is create a character, and she buys a black wig like that with shapes and Cleopatra cut. and some black boots, and then with that character that she already created, she started to ask to request credits that she already arrived with her luxury cars. The more she appeared to be wealthy, she opened an account. Besides, a few days later she arrived and asked for a credit to some of them already these same credits, already where they carried a life insurance and a woman who presented herself parking a Porsche, a Hummer, at the door with an absolutely impeccable aesthetic with some forms valley. Impeccable also, and it was impossible to tell her no, and no one told her no between Anna and Angie physical resemblance. There is none. You take the photo of Anna Pa's ID, and took and saw the image of the transformation she had made with that wig, and they did not resemble each other absolutely, in anything, not one, only of the bank directors she visited told her no, denied her a credit we are talking about before. The crisis at that time of banking entity evidently cannot be generalized. But it was much easier for them to grant you a mortgage, and they granted you a credit. Practically nothing was asked, no guarantees were asked, no well. As we have seen, even a possible ID, simply knowing how to forge a signature, one already had access to this type of policies and loans, and in the second phase, she obtained a contract with certain impersonating, also the victim to life. Insurances of life insurance does not end in the name as the beneficiary with another person of whom she also took possession of the ID music. The beneficiary of the life insurances is neither Anna Paz nor María Ángeles Molina. It was a third person named Susana Basquinana. Did this woman have anything to do with any of them? We find a beneficiary of these insurance policies with whom she tells us that evidently she had no idea of this, that she is no longer benefit of any insurance policy, and that as the only data that she can corroborate us is that she lost ID in a company that was dedicated to making photocopies. Coincidentally, in this company that is dedicated to making photocopies also is recognized as a regular client. María Ángeles Molina, María Ángeles Molina, has subscribed credits and life insurances using the identity of Anna Paz, but placing a third person, Susana Basquinana, as beneficiary of the same with the purpose of eluding the investigators with these data. They decide to request an entry and search order in her domicile. Music. We enter her domicile, and here, yes, we find all the necessary documentation, different photocopies of ID, different photocopies, booklets, bank extracts. Well for Paz. We also find a blonde wig. The beneficiary of the police was insurances was blonde in the search that is made at Angie's house. Her computer equipment is analyzed, and there in her computer, the text, what time passed. Angie has been looking on the internet how to buy chloroform, how to put an animal or a person to sleep administering certain drugs, and this is illustrated for what is showing. Also look for clubs of all-turned male prostitution, but in which the client went to the place we discard until finding the service of two people of two men who were dedicated to providing service to women on contact. Pages of collaboration was maximum, and from here, they told us that followed that effectively burned that had contacted them, and that the only service that withdrew them was to obtain their semen through a deposit in a container. Got a semen under the service, and left, although gave reality to the how and the why the semen had arrived at the body of Anna Paz, and besides by whom it had been transported on March 12, 2008, 3 weeks after crime. The Mossos arrest María Ángeles Molina as the alleged author of the murder of Anna Paz. After her arrest, Angie denies having been with her the night of February 19th. Although she had a great alibi, it was that, as she unconvened me, is that I went to look for my mother's ashes at the Zaragoza morgue. Angie presents an alibi that she goes. That day she is in Zaragoza, that she went to collect her mother's ashes as a mother who had died more than 1 year ago. It was by highway and for the trip and the payment with card, and her car was registered at the time, and on the return manual payment. Try to go unnoticed. Says the morgue employee was not more than 10 minutes arrives to collect the ashes and leave then the Mossos with time checked that she had plenty of time to go and return and murder Anna for him. We send a declaration to the current partner or sentimental partner. At that time, María Ángeles Molina, shortly after he himself in an apartment that we had not yet entered the search, did not deliver voluntarily, because he found, according to refers to the trace the toilet cup behind the toilet bowl, finds a bag with more than half original of her room Basquinana. No, which were the beginnings. More music. On February 20th, 2012, the trial against María Ángeles Molina begins in the Provincial Court of Barcelona after remaining almost 4 years in preventive prison. You kill Nabai, you had a motive to kill for the adjustment that no longer is N for that you killed the wall. It was a cold and now Tika attitude that is very little expressive, endured with a lot of integrity. The 6 sessions, because there were 66 days of trial sessions, and did not reveal any type of emotion. And I perhaps characterize her The most cost this attitude, the attitude of Angie during the trial, at all times cold, distant, as if it was not with her, and making herself the victim in the report in the end in my accusation, well explained what it seemed that the accused person met all the requirements to define her as a psychopath, be someone that you have conquered, that is a type 10, that besides shows you gives you all her affection to session only for money, or you have to break any bond empathy, no. You can feel, because if not, it is impossible to do that and not. Collapse shows all the traits of a psychopathic personality, cold, manipulative liar, with a high capacity for deception to mimic in her environment, is a woman who objectifies everyone around her, turns them into objects. People are perfect vehicles to obtain the end she pursues. She presented herself to all the trial sessions with the French manicure perfectly done heel, but all her watches, bracelets, suspended, her rings made, up with a makeup, well, that neither very strong then very perfect to nor a hair out of age then. Wanted that as there are people, the representatives of the entities, as the person who provided the documentation of Narvaez and her subscribed contracts of loan and life insurance not identified, but that was determining where the declarations of the witnesses almost all recognized her, the people who managed the rental of the apartment on Camperdon Street in Barcelona, the people who were in the banking entities, the people of the insurance companies. To this day, she continues to maintain that she is innocent, that everything was a trap in the trial. She allowed herself some questions. Water, those declarations caused the crying of the parents and the screams of the parents from the guest benches. But I found a family frankly saddened, astonished above all, and very surprised, because it is that what had happened was extraordinary, that a person who supposedly was a friend of her daughter made a staging so tremendous. Everything was very, very tragic. It is very tremendous. And very terrible, difficult to assume for Anna's family, for D, but for any family on March 19th, 2012, almost a month after the start of the trial, sentences passed against María Ángeles Molina. Court of Barcelona has sentenced 22 years in prison to María Ángeles Molina for murdering a work colleague and impersonating her identity. The motive, according to the sentence, was to collect a score of insurances and loans that she had contracted, impersonating the victim after conviction of María Ángeles Molina for the death of Ana Páez. A new question hangs over her past. The family of Angie's deceased husband decides to investigate his death. Occurred on November 23rd, 1996. The first thing that catches our attention in the case when we decide to start reviewing them is the same that caught the attention of Juan's sisters once the death of Ana is known for in Barcelona. Let's say that two analogous circumstances are established. We know that when Ana dies, there is a very delicate economic situation on the part of Angie, and when Juan dies, there is also a delicate situation that is related well with the compulsive purchase of valuable objects, of luxurious objects, and overspending. When Juan committed suicide, he was crazy to commit suicide in the businesses. He was a young man. He was not an attractive, healthy. He was crazy with his daughter. He had a family that loved him and good friends even here in Barcelona. He had no motive, and besides, after a paddle game, it is known that Juan wakes up like any other morning, changes into sports clothes, and leaves for a club where he used to play paddle with his companions, or a completely normal paddle game like any other day, and then simply returns home from there. There's a time jump until the day he is found by hour with the towel around the waist, thrown on the floor next to bed, and with evident signs of having suffered an intoxication. At first, as it was believed to be a suicide, no photographs were taken. The photographs of the kitchen, the photograph of the supposed pills that were, and of the coal that supposedly, according to Angie and what he took, was a dish product. That is negligence. It is not the lack of awareness, that the facts not everything is what it seems. A person who has thought of committing suicide rarely appears in a completely disordered scenario. Juan's corpse seems wrapped in a towel, as if it had just come out of the shower, thrown right next to bed in his bedroom. It is supposed that he tried to grab the sheets because the sheets were moved from their place, and besides, with a quite violent vomit on these sheets that had fallen to the floor, then what we really believe is that, that there she placed a substance by which one dies the iron phosphate inside some capsules that he took. That is all the witnesses speak, that he was a very healthy person, and that he took vitamins after doing sports in the mountain, to which we take for granted. That one made a toxic substance that is not without taste. We have to ask ourselves what possibilities there are, or what methods there are for this to occur, for me to take a poison and not notice the taste. Therefore, the possibility is raised that here she placed a poison capsule inside that box. But how is she going to know when he would take? On the other hand, it is already curious the fact that when the deaths occur, Angie is always far from the place where these have been triggered at the moment one dies. There she was on a trip in Barcelona, and it was very habitual that she traveled, but not habitual that she called a house of Sarah to be a couple of days, and return on that date. The lady who cleaned the house tells us that there she called continuously to the house Angie, and makes calls throughout the week prior to Juan's death at the time she knows he is asleep, and always asks Felipe Juan is fine, you find him. Fine every day, delayed the return to Canarias. Already go on in the afternoon, and tomorrow. She was simply calling to make sure the day he was going to take the pill, and that he could die. The police manages to find 2 receipts that prove that María Ángeles Molina, before the death occurs, already had planned to move to Barcelona. Therefore, it is not something that happened subsequently as a result of her husband's suicide, but that she already had planned to return now while the position. It is because she had enrolled her daughter in a school she had already bought, let's say, the ticket to transport one of her vehicles. There, the case of Angie is the typical case where we have dozens of peripheral indications that make us absolutely convinced of what's happened. Another thing is what in law is necessary to bring a person before a jury and be able to reach trial. María Ángeles Molina remains imprisoned in the Bryans One Penitentiary Center in Barcelona. There she receives periodic visits from her daughter, who is her main support and the only family she has left. Is one of those considered a model prisoner, complies strictly with all the prison disciplines, does not have a group of companies that dance to her tune and work for her. Well, that she had a prisoner who did her massages. Another, well, the manicure that we have in mind that at any moment she can be free again. At any moment they will grant her some penitentiary degree to be able to enjoy permits to no one in Anna's environment has apologized. Of course, I neither, because they have in another of the many women who worked in that company. Well, for good people, for trusting, for surely for that. When we meet someone, we relax our levels of alert. We believe that we can trust in that abuse of trust on the part of the aggressor, especially victimized Anna, I and my sister. Logically, I stay. I remember her as she was a vital, cheerful person. And I stay because I do not stay with everything that tarnishes, with everything that they have bathed her death, and so on that does not come out more than some in glasses. If she does not mind killing the father of her daughter, if she does not mind killing her friend for money, what awaits society? The new investigation into the death of Juan Antonio Alvarez is in the instruction phase. The judge must determine if the evidence gathered by the accusation is sufficient or not to bring her to trial again.